Okay, chapter 4, number 5. Lo yishan odom lo aponav lo orpo. Let's see that when you sleep, you should not sleep on your face, not on your back. You should sleep on your side. When you go to sleep, the beginning of the night, you lie on your left side. And towards the night, you turn towards your right side. Lo yishan somach lachilo. You should not go to sleep immediately after you eat. After you eat, you should wait 3 or 4 hours before you go to sleep. One should not sleep during the daytime. During the daytime, it's time for being productivity. It's not the time to sleep. Just want to mention something. It's very interesting. We had mentioned, I just alluded to it last week, that, there's such a thing known as a menstrual cycle. A woman has a menstrual cycle. According to halacha, Jewish law, when does the day start? Day starts at dawn, and then we have sunrise. Sunrise is not dawn. Sunrise sometimes is as much as 72 minutes after dawn. Sunrise is when the sun comes above the horizon. When you see the sun, the reason why it's dark is because the sun is so far below the horizon, the rays don't come up. But when the rays start coming up over the horizon slightly, that's called dawn. So from dawn to sunrise, it's about 72 minutes or a little less. Sunrise means literally when you see the sun, the ball come above the horizon slightly, that's sunrise. Okay? But the day actually begins at dawn. Sunrise is full-blown day. Now, in regard to a cycle, menstrual cycle, if things repeat themselves, let's say if a woman on the calendar sees 3 months in a row, the same date, or the same span, so we say it's been established that her cycle 3 times establishes a cycle. Then we assume or presume the next month it's going to be on that same day. Okay? Now, the law is, based on the laws of family purity, a man is not permitted to engage with his wife if she's menstruant. What about on the day that she had menstruated a month ago, the previous month? So let's say the woman had menstruated on a certain day. So that day on the calendar is off limits. Why? Because just as she menstruated in the past, there's a chance, even though she hasn't menstruated yet this month, she may menstruate on that day, based on the laws of what? Of the cycle being set in place. When we say the daytime or the nighttime period, do you calculate that from dawn, or do you calculate that from sunrise? So the commentators in the Shulchan Aruch, the Korban says it's calculated from sunrise, not from dawn. Why? Because when the sun rises, it has an effect on our whole system. When you're exposed to the sun touches our body clock. So even though dawn is day, but in regard to body clock, the sun has to rise to be impacted by the sun. So I'm saying the same thing over here. Lo yishan bayom, he says you should not sleep during the daytime. Why? The daytime is a time of productivity. Even if you're not exposed to the sun itself, but during the daytime period, your body is affected, impacted. There's movement. And a person's meant to be productive. That means the system is revved up or activated to be put into action. Not to be dormant. If you go to sleep, then you're putting it into a dormant state. That's not the natural function of the body. When it's supposed to be awake, you're supposed to be involved in productivity. If you go to sleep during that time, you're taking the body, it's going against the natural direction which the body is meant to function, because now it's daytime period, the body now is being affected. Now, it's a known fact in Finland, these countries, sometimes it's just a few hours of night during the summertime. In the winter, there are very few hours of light. Either they're in the dark or at night most of the time. It's a known fact that these countries have a greater percentage of alcoholics and suicides than anywhere else in the world. Why? Because they're exposed to very little sunlight. Whole winter, they're in the dark. It's like a melancholy, depressing state. But I'm just saying it's even more than that, because the sun, when the sun shines, it actually touches us. The body benefits from it. Today, because we're less exposed to the sun for many reasons, so if we need supplements to make up for the vitamin D that we normally would get from the sun for that reason. Okay? So the Rambam says, Lo yisha bayom, you should not sleep during the daytime. Number 6. Anything which causes one to have a loose bowel movement. Rambam's talking like a doctor. What causes one to have a loose bowel? Kigon anovim tenim v'tusim. Grapes, figs, berries, agasim, avtichim. Agasim, I think, pears, avtichim are melons. Umine akishuim, types of gourds. Umine melafonus, and pickles, cucumbers. Ochelos odom betchila kodem achila. These foods you should eat as the appetizer. It should be the beginning of the meal. Why? Because you want the system to be open. You don't want there should be sludge in your system. So by eating these types of foods, which loosens the bowel, as a result of that, now when the food is eaten, it's able to be more easily processed. V'lo yarvim imamozon. When you eat these foods, don't intermingle it with the food, with the bread. El shosemat achietzu mibeten ho elyon. What do? You drink water, so it'll actually be flushed down to the lower extremity of the stomach. And then you eat your food, then you eat your main course. Udvarm shema'amtzin es b'nei ayin. There's certain things which actually solidify the bowel. What is that? It's what we call a binder. It binds. Go rimonim, pomegranates, prishim, the tapuchim, apples. Prishim are, I don't know what that is exactly. The kastur mulin. Ochelosen, take of gumzono. Eat that right after you eat the main course. V'lo yarbe lechom hen, but don't eat too much of it. If one wants to eat chicken, fowl, you want to eat chicken and beef at the same time. First eat chicken. Now we talk about digestion. What could more easily be digested? Chicken can be more easily digested, or fowl, than beef. Okay? So if you can eat both, he says you should eat the chicken first, because it's more easily to digest. You can eat eggs, and you can have chicken or fowl. Which you should eat first, the eggs or the chicken, the flesh of the chicken. First you eat the eggs. Because again, it's more easily digestible. What about if we're talking about eating venison, a lamb, a sheep, or from an animal? Beef, of a steer. Which one should you eat first? It's more easily to digest the lamb than what? Than the flesh of the beef. Whatever you eat, always what's more easily digested, that's the first thing you eat. And then you eat afterwards something which is more difficult to digest. Because otherwise you create a problem. Because if you first take in something that's more difficult to digest, that means we eat it afterwards, gets stuck. It's not going to be digested. Here, you're already creating a flow pattern. Because what you first eat digests, so the system is digesting easily. Even when you have some more difficult, it follows and is drawn after the first. But if you go the other way, where it's literally, it's like grinding to get going. So even the bird, which normally could easily digest because he ate it in the same meal, it'll be more difficult to digest the bird because the system is dragging itself. Okay. Now, when you eat meat or fowl, which season should you reserve that for winter or for summer? The whole idea is when the body is taxed, we try to make it easier. That's what we said earlier. You should first do some movement before you eat. Because if you do movement, it activates the system, and it's not going from 0 to 130. So since the system is in action and is a movement, now when you eat, it's more natural that the digestive system breaks down the food. So same idea, if you can have something which is more easily digested, something more difficult to digest, have the more easily digested first. First, they have the benefit of it, the vitamins or the carbohydrates of that. But in addition, because you got the system revved up, chicken, beef is much more difficult. In the summer, you should eat foods that are cold, and not foods or they're cold which are spicy. Shouldn't eat intense spice. You can eat it with vinegar. In the winter, you eat foods that are hot. In the winter, you eat foods that are hot, and you add spice. Mustard seed, you shouldn't eat too much. Chiltis is a certain type of fish, which is so acidic that literally, if you feed it to a regular animal, the chiltis, no, it's a type of it actually will burn a hole in its stomach. If you're in regions which are like it's always winter cold there, he's telling you, in the summer eat lighter foods, in the winter eat heavier foods. Eat less spicy, more spicy. Summer is for the less spicy. Okay. Okay, holding 9. This goes quickly. There's this expression. You have certain foods that are bad, very bad, to a great degree. Rambam, again, speaking like a doctor, certain foods you should stay away from. Why? They're bad, excessively bad, to a great degree. It's best you should never eat these foods ever. Never, you should never ingest these foods. Kagon, hadogim, vagozolim, hamluchim, ayushonim. In those days, they used to salt away fish for as a preservative, and they would salt away large fish, which was salted, and it was salt away. It was old fish. This kind of fish, at first, it's a large species. In addition, it's salted away and it's aged. This is, he says, it's detrimental to your health. Ingesting this, it's not only bad, it's very bad, it's terribly bad. V'agvina melucha hayshana. What about cheese? You know, most kosher cheeses are not aged cheeses, but salted aged cheese is very unhealthy. Hakmeyin upitrius v'abosa meliach yoshan. Mushrooms and spores. Basa meliach yoshan. Old meat that's been salted away, but it's old. Yain migito, freshly squeezed wine, grapes. It hasn't fermented. It doesn't have the alcohol content yet. But tapshil shisho ad shinivrecho. You have food. When food before it spoils, it's a gradual process. It loses its taste. It tastes bland. The intensity of taste is gone. That food you should never eat. That's food that's ready to become putrid. Stay away from it. What about if you have food? It's starting to decay, decomposed, has a foul odor, or it's bitter, which is an indication that it's going south. Anything which it smells bad or it's very bitter. Ingesting this is like taking poison. That's how detrimental it is to your health. Others are not healthy, but they're not as bad as the ones which we've just discussed. So those that are unhealthy, if you want to have them, very small amount. It should be in intervals, after many times. They shouldn't be taken ingested too close to one another. Okay. One second. Therefore, these foods that are detrimental, you can have it very, very rarely, but you shouldn't accustom yourself to eat from them because one, it becomes habitual. Milk that stayed out after 24 hours, you shouldn't drink that milk. See, today we have pasteurized milk. So as a result of that, the bacteria in the milk is really, it's killed. That's why if you go to a natural health food store, there you could buy raw milk. There the milk has all, so it's healthier, but if you leave it beyond 24 hours, that bacteria becomes actually detrimental. So he says milk that's been milked, it's been out since it's milked more than 24 hours, don't drink the milk. It's not healthy. And he says you should not eat large fish and cheese. Cheese is not so healthy. I think the Mediterranean diet has cheese in it. Larry, no? cheese and bread and nuts and some fruit. That's the Mediterranean diet. He says gvina is not good. Gvina is cheap. Ubasa shorim gedolim. What about ox meat? The Gemara talks about ox meat. It's very tough. Even if you cook it, it's very, very difficult to digest. Ox meat. Utioshim gedolim. Large sheep. Vapul. Beans, vadashim. Beans and adashim. Lentils. Vasafir v'lechem sorim. I'm not sure what safir is. Does he explain what safir is in the translation? Larry, what's safir? Saffron? Saffron?
Chickpeas. Well, there's a mention here of chickpeas.
Okay. V'lechem sorim, barley bread. The Gemara tells us that barley bread, sometimes you eat it, it could cause stomach worms. V'lechem matzos, v'akru v'chotzi v'abitzol v'ashumim v'achadu v'atznon. Hear this? Bread that's baked like matzah, cabbage, onions, garlic, mustard seed, and radishes. It's all not good vegetables to eat. You should stay away from it. And if you have it, a small amount, very small, only in the winter, not in the summertime, because this all heats the body. He says beans and lentils, it's not worthwhile to eat it whatsoever. Even with summer, winter, lentils are not healthy. Dluin are like zucchini, gourds, that you eat in the summertime. Evidently, it's because it's hard on the digestive system. Anything which is hard on the digestive system, keep it for the winter, not the summer. Because the summer, no, the other way. In the summer. I mean, I'll tell you what's difficult. Just hold on a second. A person he should deny himself the fruits of a tree. And you shouldn't eat too much of them. Even if it's dried. And it's understood even if they're moist. It has all the juice in it. But if you eat fruits before they ripen, it's like putting a sword into the body. It totally destroys the body. We speak unhealthy, we speak of detrimental. If they're eating raw fruit where it's not ripe, that's detrimental. The others, we talk about, it's not healthy. Carob. Carob is bad, always not healthy. What about if you have salted fruits? Salted means they're processed through salting. You should only eat a small amount in the summer or in warm regions. What about figs, grapes, and almonds? Shkedim, lolam tov, they're always good. They're good to eat. Here, grapes, figs, and almonds, whether they're moist or they're dried. Eat as much as you want of those. That's healthy. But he said you shouldn't eat continuously of them, although they're good, although they're better than all other fruits of trees. Nevertheless, to have a continuous diet of them, it's not good. As good as it is, too much is no good.
רבי, חמוצים with pickles, נכון?
Pickled, yeah. Next one's interesting because today we know hadvash. What about a small child giving honey? It's a known fact. It says on certain honey instructions that until the child is so old, like 2 years old, he should not eat honey because the liver has to break it down, and the child's liver enzymes are not sufficiently developed, and it could actually be detrimental to the child. An infant or a child up to 2 should not be given honey. Hadvash v'yayin ro liktanim. It's bad for a child. Yovelis king. When a person's older, it's something very beneficial. Kolshkim b'mosag shamim, especially in the winter. V'tzorch odem lechod b'mosachama shnei shlishim. You should, when you eat in the summer, because the body's taxed from the heat, you should eat 2/3 of what you eat in the winter. Whatever you eat in the winter, even the winter, you said earlier, you should not eat it should be 1/3 less. And in the summer, it should be 2/3 of that. Because the body's taxed. La'olam yishtadol odem shu me'ov rofin kol yomov. Person should always try to have a soft bowel movement. Never be in a position of being constipated. Yakorov l'shul shumad. It should even be loose. It's healthier because the waste of the body, it's all toxins. Very often the colon, because all that passes through it, you can have polyps, and those polyps could become, initially they're non-cancerous, they can become cancerous. Because being exposed to the waste of the body, which is it's toxic waste, therefore it's better that waste should leave the body, should not be part of the body. So Klal Gadol before, you hear this? Speaking to the doctors, it's a rule, it's a great principle of medicine. If a person has difficulty doing his bowel movement, it's a known fact, all types of very difficult illnesses come upon that person. But a person who is able to cleanse his body, the body cleanses naturally, easily. He says, a person is constipated, how does he loosen his bowel? What should he do? If you're a young person, you should eat in the morning. You should eat when you're young, salty, spicy foods, in olive oil, in fish brine, without bread. Do not eat bread. That combination of what? Again, any food. It should be salty, spicy, mixed with oil and fish brine. You should drink cooked borscht. The extract of beets, you should eat that. You should drink that. Or kruv, or cabbage. B'shemen zayis, u'melech marayis, mixed with oil, olive oil, with fish brine and salt. V'imhoya zokein, what if you're older? Yishte dvash mozuk b'mayim. You should drink diluted honey. Chamin b'boker. You drink hot water in the morning with honey. V'yishe kamo arba shos. And then you wait 4 hours after drinking this hot water with honey. Wait 4 hours. Then you eat the meal. Because the body already has been impacted positively by this hot honey drink. And you repeat this procedure 2 or 3 days or 4 days. Until ultimately it'll soften the bowel and the body will relieve itself. Okay? This is before pharmaceuticals. Okay, we're going to stop here today. We have Mesil Sisharim at